Owozu was a LATAM agency fostering some of the biggest Spanish-speaking VTubers in the entire world. And you know me, I love my LATAM audience. So, of course, I had to make a video on this topic. In fact, I basically identify spiritually as a Spanish speaker.
God fucking damn it, Rima! How many times have we been over this? You don't speak Spanish!
Parrot, go away, this is my goddamn show! Now, where were we? Yes, these VTubers, they were huge, each of them owning hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subscribers and racking in tons of money from their very large and established audiences. To give you some context, Owozu had a hybrid model, kinda like VShoujo, with half pre-established talents and half original talents. But today, all of the talents are gone and the agency is completely defunct. Because behind their very happy-go-lucky facade, something extremely dark and perverse was brewing, leading to the agency eventually imploding overnight and blindsiding both public and fans, revealing a tale of not only exploitation and bullying, but also sexual exploitation with underage voice actresses, and them breaking almost every VTuber taboo imaginable, such as hiring different actresses to voice their models, hijacking the VTubers' accounts, and charging back money from their talents. The talent and company are still locked in legal battle to this day, and based on these allegations, Owozu seems to be competing for the title of the truest black company. But before we dive in, I want to let you know that this video will be released in 2 parts, as this is an ongoing story and I've been in contact with both of the talents and their management. This is a complicated and convoluted story which I'll try my best to explain as clearly as I can, and the first part will focus exclusively on the allegations, while the second part will cover statements from both sides and the results of the ongoing lawsuit. But before we begin, did you know you've missed 14 uploads since my last video? I've been posting daily on Rima Evenstar highlights. Don't forget to check it out and join my Discord at discord.gg/Rima to stay updated on all of the latest VTuber news. Now back to the video. Signs of trouble brewing started when on January 29th, one of the biggest talent in the agency, Raccoon, stopped following the agency on Twitter. Fans took immediate notice. The Raccoon fan accounts wondered what is going on. Meanwhile, the agency Discord servers was imploding. All of the members' icons had changed to a black and white version, and they changed the Discord PFP to a no. Additionally, staff was noted to either be mysteriously fired or kicked from the server immediately, allegedly from the company in response to the server protest. Fans tried to piece clues together and find out that the only thing that happened previous to these events was the announcement of a new male VTuber named Zero joining the company. Could it be that this was the catalyst that initiated this sequence of events? A few friends of the VTubers and other content creators tweeted out in concerns. Don't you have the feeling that something very bad is about to happen? Just remember to support the people we're supporting, and there are things to talk about. There's also another VTuber talent agency sensing the downfall of Owozu that attempted to poach its talent, tweeting, "Hey girls, do you have a manager?" Not only that, but none of the talents had streamed for several days. 2 days prior, Karma, one of Owozu's VTubers, made an announcement in her Discord server claiming that she wasn't feeling good and wasn't able to stream the way she wanted, so she was going to stream on that day or the day after, but it wasn't guaranteed. Karma then called her VTuber friend Nara in tears. However, Nara was streaming at the time with a guest and accidentally forgot to mute her mic. Seeing her distraught, fans started to panic and starts to demand answers, so Owozu is for to release a statement. We understand that Owozu is being asked for public details about the creator's situation. However, at their request, they have requested to maintain private private and direct communication individually. Owozu accepted the creator's request, and in less than 24 hours, there has been repeated public and notorious conduct that contradicts the request of most of them. We are continuing to hold discussions with them. We apologize to the public for this situation, and we will update you when the relevant deadline has passed. Sincerely, Owozu. To which one of their former talent that used to go by the name of Pandora, now called Gifts under her new identity, replied, "Petition? What petition? Attitude? What attitude? They don't even seem to have control of the account for at least 24 hours. It is obvious and noticeable that there is something very weird here." But finally, we get the first major response by one of the girls, Raccoon, who tweets, "Don't be liars. Complaints of constant mistreatment at work towards everyone were always presented as a group, and you have been insistent on trying to handle us individually when our complaint, I repeat, was always as a group complaint. You have not given us any indication of convenient and pertinent solutions beyond copying and pasting messages as if you were bots. Thank you very much for all the support from our dear community and colleagues. Sincerely, the girls of Owozu." Ending the tweet with, 1 is a problem, 2 is a coincidence, 3 raises doubt, but 9, we can't all be crazy. At this point, Misra, the founder of Owozu, responds, "Right now we are negotiating privately with the girls via the respective emails. These responses will take some time as they require an analysis of all the context. Many demands response in extremely short times, but in these circumstances it is simply not possible when they chose formal communication via email through legal advisors, unilaterally and by part of many without requesting another means of contact. Unfortunately, there is not much more I can do on my part as I do not have the relevant knowledge to handle the situation myself. The only thing I can promise you for now is that this will not turn into a W, meaning Whackter, in the face of leaking the girls' personal data. It was never our intention to reach a point of that nature. I cannot comment much more as that would imply breaking different confidentiality documents, which at least I am respecting. Have a nice afternoon." But Misra isn't the only owner of the agency. In fact, there are several. He's just the main one, and to give a little context on Misra, he is a 300,000 subscribers YouTuber that used to be a League of Legends pro player. Ew, he's a Gangplank player. Well, it all makes sense now. Misra originally used his earnings to kickstart the agency after being defrauded by one of his partners who took off with some of their team's earning. Although he was a victim in this previous case, it seems he had a pattern of hanging out with unsavory people. In his response, he claims the situation is now in the hands of legal representatives and assures that the agency won't follow in Whackter's footsteps. He also promises that the girl's personal information will remain secure, and so far, he gets the benefit of the doubt. But moving on. The allegations against the agency are numerous, with several former talents coming forward to share their claims. To summarize a few, the girls allege that they were promised support in exchange for the company taking a cut of their earnings. However, instead of receiving any meaningful support, they claim the management fostered a toxic environment characterized by jealousy, backstabbing, and unhealthy competition, often pitting the talents against each other, and issues that are often associated with the so-called black company's title in the industry. One of their former talents, Gift, also alleges that they were made to work alongside an individual accused of being a PDF file. Allegations that go far beyond inappropriate exchanges with minors. When complaints were raised about this or other issues, it's claimed that the company responded with threats of legal actions and often citing NDAs or other legal measures to quiet them. But what's even more shocking, according to these claims, is that the NDA in question was discovered to be a direct copy of a free online template, raising questions about its validity. Regardless, it's important to note that while NDAs are designed to protect sensitive information or trade secrets, they cannot legally prevent someone from reporting workplace abuse, harassment, or criminal activity. Unfortunately, many VTuber agencies seem to exploit the inexperience of young talents and rely rely on their lack of knowledge about their rights. But by spreading awareness about these issues, we can hopefully prevent others from falling into similar situation and empower VTubers to stand up for themselves. Later that day, the former talent Hero Doge corroborates a few of these accusations. When I asked questions, they didn't answer me. They never helped me with my content and I had to figure it out myself. When it came to editing, it didn't last long. In the streams I made and videos I sent, only 2 came out. Drakeout is an incredible case. While I was asking questions for content, how to do things, and editing, he wouldn't answer me and only spoke with Heto, ignoring me completely. I never had any contact with Roldier. The only time I had contact with him was when I had to give him the idea of reviving Hero Doge for El Día de los Inocentes. For reference, this is called the Day of the Innocents and it's like an April Fool's but on the 28th of December. Sometimes he didn't answer and when he did, he wouldn't tell me anything, only that we were going to do it. Recently, for the day proceedings to El Día de los Inocentes is when I had an idea of what to do and I couldn't prepare anything with Siri. We had to improvise with the base idea that Roldier gave us. I had given the comment to Roldier about this on December 4th. We could have planned it better. It was nothing to do with coordination and always having to get the ideas through the higher ups, and if it wasn't approved, your idea was shit. You couldn't even have collabs with who you want. You were limited to a yes or no from the higher ups. I'm simply asking you to support the girls in everything. Hopefully this goes by fast, but I'm sending them all the strength since the ones I got to know have been wonderful. The tweet has an image attached to it, with most Owuzu's girls in Fuel's Twitch chat chanting. 1 might be a problem, 2 is a coincidence, 3 raises some doubts, but 9, we can't all be delusional. But while we're on the topic of Fuel, Fuel is another recurring character in the story and is basically a Spanish VTuber Keemstar that was live doing a stream on Owozu at the time. However, the way she presented the information was fairly neutral to Owozu, which is odd considering the public backlash they were going through. But let's put a pin in this and we'll get back to it later. It's also alleged that the company, like many VTuber agencies, maintained a blacklist. However, their blacklist was reportedly made up mostly of individuals who had refused to join the agency or work with one of the managers, Drakeout. If true, it paints a picture of extreme pettiness. One such case involves Nymphaaea, a VTuber who was invited by Drakeout to join Owozu. She declined the offer as she had plans to launch her own project, but claims she faced significant consequences simply for saying no. As many of you know or thought, Drakeout had me blacklisted from Owozu. Because of your tantrums, I lost contacts and friendships, but I stayed silent because I didn't want to hurt the Owozu talents. They were never at fault for anything. I knew he was a terrible person and I preferred keeping it to myself. At the time, we shared a nice friendship, or so I thought, until he told me something that opened my eyes. When he saw that I wanted to start my own project, his reaction was to tell me, instead of playing at having your own agency, you could be in Owozu. That's when I understood that he never saw me as an equal. My project was for him a game, a whim of mine. I was only another name with a number he could add to his list of talents. Good thing I preferred playing the game, because now I know that under his tutelage, I would have suffered nothing but abuse. Too bad the girls had to put up with you for so long and this hadn't come out before. The girls have so much strength, you always had talent, you do not need someone or a company to keep shining. You don't know how much peace I feel in my heart for being able to say something in the end. Secondly, as I mentioned before, Owozu had sometimes recast the voice actresses for a VTuber model with another one. In this case, Murchi was formerly Heto's first voice actress. She breaks down her experience with Owozu in a series of tweets and Twitter space, her voice laced with both anger and resignation.
Oigan, estuve leyendo más sobre el tema ahorita de Owozu. Oigan, ¿no se les hace raro? Es como... no lo sé. Está media rara la cosa, ¿no? ¿Por dónde quieren que comience? La verdad es que no me importa ya. Tipo, todas las oportunidades que he tenido me las han quitado. Absolutamente todas. Así que ya no me importa, la neta voy a hablar. ¿Quieren que comencemos con el inicio de Owozu? Como yo, Mirra y Drakeout empezamos con esto y cómo dañamos a Dixis. Digo, ¿qué?
First, she exposed the existence of the after-noted blacklist, a system that effectively shuts out creators deemed a threat to the agency. Murchie herself explains how she was blacklisted and unable to monetize her YouTube channel, even though she was the creator of Heto. When she left the agency, Owozu decided to DMCA her and brand her as a copycat, and ultimately also prevented her from joining any VTuber agency. She claims this was due to anonymous threats against the agency she wanted to join, alleging that Owozu threatened to cut off any opportunities for all of their talents if they allowed Murchie to debut with them. The blacklist also extended beyond agency involvement, according to her. When Murchie was finally able to join another agency, Drakeout, a manager of Owozu, personally intervened to convince other creators to distance themselves from her, spreading rumors that she was a liar. Eventually, this agency also kicked her out. Murchie ends her tweets expressing her love for these individuals, but ultimately feels betrayed by their actions. At this point, the situation had started to spiral into a full-blown revolt. The talents were outraged, and even the editors managing the talents' channels had joined into the protest. In fact, the editors released official statements declaring they would no longer upload content as a form of protest against Owozu. From the team's support, we announced that we are in complete disapproval of all the actions that Owozu had taken against its talents. We withdraw from the R reaction channel, grateful of you and all of the love that you have given us, and above all to Chessie during this journey. Hopefully our paths cross again in another lifetime. Sincerely, Team Support. And Karma's Clippers channel also sent their supports to the talents and insults to Owozu. Like a snowball effect, everybody starts coming out with their own story. Kendall Murph is another ex-Owozu employee and decides to share his thoughts as well. I am glad that my friends are finally speaking out against all of the mistreatment of Owozu, where even I had a bad experience because they wanted to defame me. Girls, you are not alone. You have all of my support in this. Whatever you need, I am here. Your blacklist ends here, Owozu. After this goes down, Murchie then decides to reveal her own experience with Drakeout, a manager of Owozu who eventually made her lose her passion for VTubing. Honestly, I do attribute all of my problems to him. He criticized my content so much that little by little I lost confidence in it, including several works that I made with love were labeled as videos that no one would like and were not uploaded. Now, the sentimental part. When I expressed to him how uncomfortable I was working with him, he made out a drama saying that everyone hated him and that he didn't want me to hate him. I felt empathy and told him that I liked him and that we should try to get along. When I met him, he knew I was a huge fan of his, so he made me do some stuff like stab someone in the back, figuratively. My problem with Misra, he never really did anything to me, but he allowed Drake's strange behavior towards me. I asked him for a private call since he, Drake, and Roldier always went there. During that call, I asked him, crying, that I no longer wanted to work with Drake, to which he told me that I had an obsession with Drake. His last words towards me were, "Be thankful that we are giving you something. If we were bad people, we would take the characters and that's it, since it's ours." But what is ironic is that Owozu did end up taking back this character, as it is now part of their official roster, and it's even been recasted to another voice actress. She goes on to say, "They stressed to me how useless Heto was, and that was why they were graduating her, and that they would possibly not use her anymore. When I started the project with them, they made it clear to me that the day I no longer gave my voice to Heto, the three of us would have a meeting to find out what would happen with Heto, and if the three of us agreed to let someone else give Heto a voice, I would get a commission. They knew it was all lies, and I only talked about the tip of the iceberg." In a separate interview that came out later with the YouTuber Lax, Murchie, now under her PL handle The Mero, recalls the emotional toll of her experience with Owozu. She shared how devastating she felt after leaving the agency, describing it as though she she had wasted 2 years of her life for nothing. Murchie admitted that after everything, she no longer wanted to create content and felt scared to turn to her relatives for support, as pursuing this career path had been against their initial wishes. Murchie also revealed a particularly bizarre incident involving Owuzu's owner, Misra, which she believes marked the beginning of the downward spiral. She recounted, "Misra asked me if I would tell him the 1 million YouTube play button I got, and I told him no because I wanted to keep it. He told me I should thank him for leaving me with the 100,000 one, saying they were the only ones who should have it. Then he kept on joking like, wow, I've never had a 1 million play button. Give it to me, no? Or sell it to me. But I didn't want to." This incident left her feeling uncomfortable, and she believes it was after refusing to sell the button that things began to take a turn for the worst. Her story really highlights just how damaging her time with the agency was, both personally and professionally, to her. Tsuyu, a VTuber close to the group, then confirmed fans' doubt that the agency was in fact imploding because of Zero's VTuber debut announcement and more. Basically, it was confirmed that the VTuber Zero that would soon debut to join the company was also Drakeout, one of their former manager, whom, as we've seen earlier, was accused by Murchie of engaging with an inappropriate relationship with a minor. So Drakeout is a whole can of worms by himself. Because of these accusations, the girls begged the company to not work with him anymore. So you can understand their anger when the company's response was instead to turn him into an Owozu VTuber, which would essentially make him even closer to the girls. So why has Drakeout faced criticism? Some allegations have surfaced online that paint a concerning picture of his past behavior. Specifically, during an interview with the popular YouTuber Belshi, a woman named Callie came forward to share her experience of dating Drakeout when she was only 17 and he was allegedly 22. She presented evidence suggesting they dated while she was underage and described him as being manipulative and verbally abusive during their relationship. Callie also claimed that Drakeout would become upset if she toned down sexual topics, despite him previously claiming to be asexual. Drakeout has since denied these allegations, stating that the footage shared online was misleadingly edited. He also disputes the timeline of events, claiming that he could not have been 22 4 years ago as he recently turned 24, which would make him 20 at the time of the alleged relationship? He further suggested that the footage in question simply shows them role-playing in Minecraft and is being taken out of context. As of now, the situation remains one of conflicting accounts, with both parties presenting different sides of the story. In addition to the previous allegations, Drakeout has also faced accusations of manipulation. According to claims, Drakeout and Callie co-founded a YouTuber group called Nozomu. However, issues reportedly arose because Drakeout was not the leader of the group. Another talent, Sui, held that position instead. Allegedly, Drakeout couldn't handle not being in charge and sought to dismantle the group by creating conflict. It's said that he achieved this by lying to individual members and pitting them against each other, ultimately leading to the group's downfall. Another wild thing is that Owuzu's management would frequently give the girls misleading information for them to present in the video for engagement bait, which resulted in an uptick of hateful comments on them. This kind of works like rage bait, and this is a tactic frequently used on TikTok where people purposely get information wrong or misspell stuff just to have people comment to correct them because it ups the video's engagement. But at the same time, this sucks if you're trying to build a brand as someone credible.
Drakeout fue uno de los encargados de destruir Nozomu. Fue quien destruyó Nozomu desde cero, desde adentro, creando conflictos en las personas que estaban dentro del grupo. Decían, por ejemplo, le decía a tal persona, no, porque X está hablando mal de Y y vos tenés que ayudar a Y a que no se sienta mal porque es injusto que X hable de Y. Eso pasó mucho con ¿cómo se llama? Ex participante de Nozomu, Saskia. que había tenido un problema con Sui y con Serpias, pero era un problema muy chiquito que Drakeout fue el que lo escaló tanto al punto de que yo armé una funa contra Sui que decía cosas como que el Drakeout decía que Sui había hablado mal de Star VTuber, que él estaba hablando un montón de otras VTubers y de grupos de VTubers. Entonces me decía a mí, no, porque no podemos quedarnos quietos, no podemos quedarnos callados, estaría bueno que alguien salga a hablar. Entonces me metí yo a hablar por todos, supuestamente, y lo que quería Drakeout era eso, destruir Nozomu porque no estaba liderado por él, sino que por Sui. No estaba como él quería.
After all of these allegations came out, on January 30th, Owozu followed up by disavowing themselves from the VTuber and Persona Zero. Faced with all these terrible accusations, Drakeout responds by releasing a statement. He writes, well, they took advantage of the issues and they labeled me a martyr with other people's things. Now I'm suddenly the cause of all the VTubers' problems, XD. Well, it's easy to say and tell that I talked with people that I don't even know and you attribute your fights with someone else to me. That said, I've been talking yesterday and I received some apologies because at no point they want to blame me, and even less for random things. I understand, but I'm letting you know that it will not affect me because my social media are turned off, and I do not live off of them. I only use them to distract myself, and I disconnect often for months for study matters. So I will remain calm and will take advantage of this to finally stop reading social media so much. And since I am actually an outsider, time will show that nothing can get to me. And with the other issue, when I fulfill the term of confidentiality and the rest of the agreements, everything will be known and that's it. Meaning I don't have and cannot do anything about it. That's right, I will no longer help people grow without charging. And then they start saying all kinds of things about me when I don't even earn money, XD. Basically, here Drakeout claims he hasn't made any money during his 2 years tenure at Owozu, which seems like a cop-out, saying, oh, they should be glad I manage for free. And it's also doubtful that one would dedicate so much time to a job with no income, unless it came with other perks, such as status, which could have been the case. However, users in the replies were not convinced, and to one user who refuted this idea that he wasn't getting paid, Drakeout responds that there are such things as a promise contract, which means that the income payoff would come later once the company is profitable. He continues his post by saying, about the new debut and return to my socials, I will simply cancel it. It had been scheduled for some time because I announced it a year ago. You can see it on the account itself and in the YouTube video announcing it. For the rest, to those who wrote to me, we remain in contact as always. It was good having a talk with creators yesterday and it was entertaining. For the rest, we will simply see you later. Of course, he also received a wave of backlash for his response, to which he responded, since it's a hobby, I can continue to have it, and the truth is I should go to the psychologist, because the mental burden of being accused of things and after 4 months they come saying that they want to work with you again and that they made up is undoubtedly strong. So one of the VTubers affiliated with Owozu was named Nori. Nori was an IP created by Shira, a VTuber that would get involved with Riglock, one of the higher up managers. Eventually, she would sell her IP to Owozu, which they hired a voice actress called Cherry to fulfill the role later on. And Cherry also has released statements about the company, which we will get to later. But Nori's first owner, Shira, first came out with some extremely serious allegations amidst all of this controversy. So little warning, this next part is not for the faint of heart. Shira alleges she was sexually abused and groomed into living in a polyamorous relationship with one of the Owozu managers, Riglock, and his partner Saga when she was just 15 years old. She tweets, Owozu not only exploits its workers for years, they have also worked for years with Riglock, who groomed, sexually abused, and manipulated manipulated me to live with him in a polyamorous relationship when I was 15 years old. There are proofs, but they ignored them and they kept working with him. Much strength to all the girls who are fighting against how much the company exploited them. It is horrible that they have put up with this for so long. 9 are not coincidence. She also shares proof of her age and proof of Riglock's age and says, "This is my national identity card with my real age so that you can see that Rig was 26 when I was 16. And worst of all, in another tweet, Shira claims that they even recorded her while having sexual intercourse with her, which is disgusting. She tweets, "Drakeout, stop making fun of all your followers. When I was 15, they manipulated my mother and took me to live with them in a town for months where they recorded me being great. You are a cynical, capable of making fun of me with the person who me. Even with evidence, you continue to lie. If this is true, then this is disgusting behavior." As for proof whether the relationship actually happened, well, it's actually all over the internet because it was broadcasted. The entire situation was frequently flaunted on Saya's channel, who, by the way, is the third person in this relationship, and according to allegations, yet another PD file. At this point, I've lost track of how many there are in this story. Saya is basically a streamer and had old tweets unearthed in which she openly claimed, "I said 1,000 times that I am polyamorous and that Rig and I have an open relationship. Besides, the young man with red hair is with both of us." And for context, the young man mentioned here is Shira, who, by the way, isn't even a man. This entire situation just keeps getting messier the deeper you dig. Anyways, there are countless of videos online circulating showcasing the alleged evidence of this relationship. Among the most concerning are inappropriate DMs exchanged between Riglock and Shira, where Riglock is reportedly asking for nudes. It's important to note that in these screenshots, Shira is referred to as Kiro, as she used to go by that name back then. These screenshots were actually provided by one of Saya's friends, who confirms Saya's age and the nature of the relationship. According to the screenshots, the relationship did involve sexual activities, further corroborating the allegations. Riglock has also been implicated in other inappropriate conduct involving minors. One notable instance includes him allegedly requesting not safe for work fan art from the YouTuber The Cypher Show, who was just 16 years old at the time. Cypher, in his testimony, talks about his experience with both Riglock and Saya, his polyamorous girlfriend, saying, "Saya is a scumbag that I have personally met who has her boyfriend on a leash, and her boyfriend is a groomer who has no qualms about making sexual jokes with and on minors." And adds, "Do you know that Saya bragged about having nudes of 16 years old when she was already of age?" The reason why I share this with my best friend and not publicly is because they genuinely scare me. They have so many contacts with so many people around the world that they could up everything I've been working on for years. And sadly, I'm still stuck on YouTube for a living. Being on bad terms with them would be like automatically screwing up my relationship with half of the world in YouTube who I've known since 2016. They have a lot of control with their surrounding and it scares me. Saya and Riglock were also accused of stealing a character design created by a 13-year-old artist. Allegedly, they even sent their audience after her, launching a massive harassment campaign against someone with virtually no platform to defend herself. They point out the irony of this, given that Riglock has often publicly portrayed himself as a supporter of artists. There is also more accusation, but this entire story is yet another deep rabbit hole that I won't fully dive into in this video, as there's only so much information I can cover. That being said, there are numerous allegations against Riglock, many of which include inappropriate behavior towards minor. For example, users have compiled what they claim to be evidence of such behavior, including inappropriate messages. A notable example is this publicly available file, and I'll let you judge for yourself. What's most important here is understanding the context. These accusations were not new. While they've resurfaced with this controversy and the agency imploding, claims about Riglock's alleged behavior have existed prior to Owuzu's creation. At At this point, none of the talents knew about these accusations yet, but there were rumors, and Owozu claims they had no idea about these accusations either when they hired Riglock. In fact, it seems no one knew Shira's real age beside Riglock, whom she claims forced her to keep her age secret. In most places, statutory laws work under something called strict liability. This means that if an adult has sexual or exploitative contact with a minor, someone under the age of consent, they are committing a crime, no matter if the minor lied about their age or looked older. The law puts the responsibility on the adult to make sure the person they're interacting with is actually an adult. Without this rule, it would be nearly impossible to hold anyone accountable because they could always just have the convenient excuse of, I didn't know her age. Now on to Cherrycraft's story. Cherrycraft was the second voice actress behind the Nori character. She was brought in to fulfill that role after the company purchased the IP from Shira, whom, as I explained before, was the alleged victim of Riglock and also a minor at the time. In a series of tweets, Sherry spoke out against Owozu and shared her experience as a former talent of the agency. Sherry, and by consequence her character Nori, had been terminated by the agency back in December 2022.
Pues básicamente la historia va tal que así. Yo era una persona que sufrió mucho en la vida, no voy a dar muchos detalles, pero cuando entré a este trabajo, entré porque estaba a punto de terminarlo con todo. Recuerdo que le hablé a Drakeout ese día en el que estaba muy muy mal, porque yo sufrí de muchas cosas en mi vida y estaba en ese momento muy mal. Es decir, no quería nada de vivir, por así decirlo. Y Drakeout me dice, oye, ¿podrías hacer un cambio de personaje? Y fue cuando me ofreció hacer el papel de cierto personaje. Y desde ahí las cosas fueron a mal. O sea, ya empezamos fuerte, supongo.
Vale,
O sea
vale.
que él tiene un patrón de atacar principalmente o reclutar chicas en situación de vulnerabilidad, sea por cualquier cuestión.
So Sherry has alleged that Owozu was operating as a shell company and did not pay taxes. She also claimed that the company would frequently use legal threats to intimidate the talents. For instance, she mentioned that Owozu would threaten the girls with fines, such as a 2,500 penalty, which caused significant fear among the talents. However, Sherry stated that her lawyer clarified that these threats were baseless, as fines like this would need to be determined and enforced by a court, not arbitrarily imposed by the company. She concludes by saying that she doesn't have anything to gain from speaking up, only that justice would be done. Here she tweets, "Now, aside from joking around, there is something I would like to talk about. Recently, many people think that I have some benefit for talking as much as I do. The truth is, yes, I do. I can see justice for my friends and the people I care about, and that our voices won't be ignored and forgotten. And I don't care about fame. In fact, all of them, I am the only one who has gotten the least benefit from this. But I don't need it. I am a scriptwriter for Children's Channel. The target audience is now totally different. I'm only on Twitch for fun, not for the need to live. If I could ask you a favor, donate to my companions, Raccoon, Nene, Karma, Harper, Funabi, etc. They really need it. I have a wonderful job with a boss that adores me. The only thing that I really needed to do was to express what I had kept for years, and I've finally done it." In another interview given on a Spanish content creator stream named Belche, Sherry opens up even more at the mental abuse she suffered at the company. First, by explaining how when she entered the job, she was in a fragile mental state, thinking of ending it all. But Drakeout, whom she thought would be her savior and the one who would rescue her from a terrible mental state, by proposing another way of life for her, becoming a VTuber. Except it didn't turn out at all how she envisioned it. She goes on to detail how working at Owozu felt like being in an abusive relationship. Once she was inside the company, they told her she couldn't talk to any of her friends or family about her new job. And with that job, job taking more and more place into her life, she had nothing she could share to them anymore. And so she gradually lost the few friends she had left. When she eventually tried to bring one of her friends into the VTubing world and plan collabs and streams with her, Owozu told her, "No, this person is not on our contract and we will never make her channel grow. She is not from here." Later on, she was told by management that she only got into Owozu out of sheer luck. Sherry also details how she was never allowed to break characters on social media. Even if it was to tweet, "I am very grateful to all for being X character." This ended up taking on a toll on Cherry's mental health. Once she refused due to mental health issue, management reached out to her mother, claiming that the talent was lying and the presented documentation was in fact falsified. The mother scolded her daughter, dismissing her mental health struggles as nonsense, claiming that they were fabricated for attention and sympathy. In hindsight, all of this explains a lot more why she parted way with Owozu's back in 2022. Finally, another manager called Roldier was also exposed for inappropriate behavior. Roldier has also been called out online because he let his 30-year-old friend and fellow YouTuber Haplo Schaffer commit a sexual act to a minor in front of him. The tweet reads, "How fucking shameful of you to talk about a 13-year-old girls when in front of me and other people, you stayed with a 14-year-old fan to get it on with her. Shut your fucking mouth." To which Haplo replied, "Hey Roldier, you must have been very drunk because A, we stayed to drink without any other pretense, and B, it was a kiss that she gave me, and C, you didn't do anything to stop this horrible offense. How many years ago was this? 4? 5? And the craziest part of this is that he only got called out by his friend after Roldier decided to grandstand on a separate Twitter post about a similar issue. Roldier, according to you, Haplo met up with a 14-year-old girl to have sex with her, and not only did you not do anything, you kept quiet until it suited you to report it on Twitter to get interaction. Damn, burned. But as the tension was rising and everybody came out of left field to expose Owozu back to back, things would escalate even further as Owozu starts to get desperate and even more dangerous. Karma's Discord gets then hijacked by Owozu very early in the morning while they were all sleeping, which makes it seem as if it was planned. Then Raccoon asked for help on social media. Karma's Discord had everything on it: passwords, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. She says, "Please mass report Karma's VT's Discord account. It's urgent. They want to invade her privacy. They are infringing on their own clause." But once they properly assessed the damages, they realized it wasn't just Karma's Discord that was hijacked. The VTuber Chessie, with over 1.4 million subs on YouTube, as well as Siri and Funabi, all woke up to an account that was gone overnight. Thousands of hours of hard work gone in an instant. As for Raccoon, she thankfully managed to secure some of her accounts before Owozu got to them, which she confirms in her protest stream. She recounts how her heart was racing as she frantically fought against time to secure her accounts. In the midst of her efforts, she noticed that the attackers were actively trying to gain access, triggering her two-factor authentication. She explains, "By sheer luck, some accounts didn't have my password, but good lord, it was such a mess. It all happened while we were sleeping, whether out of anger or who knows what, without even a written response from them about what was going on or what would happen next. I was extremely nervous in that moment, but thankfully I managed to save several of my channels." However, at the time of recording this video, it seems Raccoon has lost her biggest channels, mainly her primary YouTube channel boasting over 1.43 million subscribers, her React channel, Raccoon R, with over 275,000 subscribers, and her third channel, Raccoon Channel, with 121,000 subs, and finally her TikTok channel with over 811,000 subscribers. As you can see, most of these channels have remained inactive for about a year now. Not another another victim of Owozu and former talent, reveals the agency won't let her keep her IP, a devastating blow for creators who depend on their virtual personas for income and support their families, but says that she won't stop fighting for it. As of today, the status of Naught's IP is unknown. The last update we got was her trying to negotiate it back, but in the meantime, she had to commission a new model and IP, which she revealed on social media. Karma, on the other hand, allegedly dropped out of university at Drakeout's urging, only to find herself struggling financially, using her earnings to pay for her father's medical bills. If this is true, the damage inflicted by Owozu on these VTubers goes beyond the direct abuse they suffered. It extends to the shattered dreams, the broken promises, and closed doors that Owozu forced upon them in exchange for their trust and dedication. But the situation gets even more complicated. According to a video by the YouTuber Lax, Raccoon had been running a fundraiser on Ko-fi over the last few months to gather money for two important surgeries, one for her vocal cords and another one for her cat. The funds were also meant to support her during her recovery period, as she wouldn't be able to work during that time. Lax explained that Raccoon received the money on January 9th, but on January 28th, Owozu allegedly requested a PayPal chargeback because she had quote-unquote seized her activities. It's claimed that the funds Raccoon raised over 2 months were essentially the equivalent of her last salary, and the money had already been spent on the surgeries. This left her in a dire financial situation, according to Lax's report. However, Owozu has denied these claims, and there appears to be conflicting information from various parties involved. To ensure the story is as accurate as possible, I'll be holding off on a deeper dive into the chargeback situation until more concrete details emerge, so stay tuned for part 2. All of this controversy on social media unfolded very rapidly over the spans of just 3 days, basically from January 28th to January 30th. However, on January 31st, things escalated further. According to various users, Owozu began DMCA striking against videos that criticized them. The company targeted any videos that featured the Owozu logo or their characters, using copyright claims as means to silence negative press. This tactic had sparked additional backlash online from both talents, onlookers, and content creators, with many accusing Owozu of attempting to suppress criticism rather than addressing the allegations directly. Raccoon even calls them out on Twitter. Scared, dear staff? How their mask fell off. So what if everyone re-uploads the video on YouTube? Will they be able to go channels by channel for a strike? Tip: don't put the logo of the pink agency because they are using that for copyright. As I mentioned earlier, Fuel was a highly regarded LATAM newstuber who had been diligently covering the Owozu controversy. She earned a reputation for being trustworthy and unbiased, making her coverage one of the go-to sources for updates on the situation. But in a jaw-dropping twist, it was later revealed that Fuel was allegedly working with Owozu this entire time. Reports claim that she was bought out by the company in an attempt to control the narrative and influence the information spreading about them. Insanity. This revelation was brought to light by Raccoon, who discovered Fuel's secret involvement with Owozu through a series of events. It started when Owozu allegedly attempted to refund an artist who had been working on Nene's, formerly Karma's, model. When the agency imploded, the artwork was put on hold, but later Owozu requested a refund for the work already completed. This caused frustration because, of course, artists should be paid for the work they've done, even if it's only a portion. The artist, understandably upset, went public with the situation, which eventually led to the discovery of Fuel's ties to Owozu. Enter a new character in this story: Koi. Koi was a friend of Misra, the agency owner, and was apparently also the art director for Owozu. Koi decided to comment on the situation publicly on Twitter. However, while doing so, he inadvertently admitted to having seen the contracts, raising questions about his involvement and how he might have known about the agency's inner workings. But Raccoon, quick as ever, doesn't miss a beat and responds to Koi's tweet. "Wouldn't that break the agency's NDA? You just publicly condemned them, Koi." And Koi simply replies, "No." Meanwhile, the newstuber Fuels jumps on a live stream to cover the situation. But during this stream, Raccoon confronts her directly. "Are you from Owozu?" she asks. Raccoon had her suspicions, as she discovered that Koi was credited on Instagram for Fuel's new VTuber model, which raised eyebrows. Why is somebody from Owozu credited for Fuel's VTuber model? Since Koi worked for Owozu, this led to the question, was Fuel working for them too? Koi later tweets, "Since July 2022, I have been supporting the Owozu project mainly with the direction of Owozu Studio, correcting, delivering assignments, reviewing, and planning things. I also worked on some concepts and various other tasks. Here's what was the most relevant to me." So with this revelation, Raccoon finally asked Fuel directly, "Fuel, you, by coincidence, mere coincidence, aren't you Maya la Exploradora, the friend of Misra and Koi?" Fuel responds, "Don't talk about my past. Now I'm Fuel, and here I'm only Fuel." This response was a soft confirmation that Fuel was indeed Maya, someone who used to work with Owozu. With this, the pieces started to fall into place. Connections between Fuel, Koi, and Misra became clearer, and the lies surrounding Owozu began to unravel in real time. Raccoon then responded in her chat, "Oh, okay. You accepted that you are Maya. Thank you. You're very good friends with Koi and Misra. That was the only thing I needed to confirm. And you just accepted it publicly. All the best. And by the way, Koi just said that you are a part of Owozu. Come on, information monopoly? Best regards." Shortly after, Raccoon uncovers further proof of Fuel working with Owozu. During Raccoon's livestream, former Owozu manager Yoko shared more revealing details about the company. Yoko explained that every Owozu employee had a business email with the handle @owozu.com. This gave Raccoon an idea. She typed in fuel@owozu.com and discovered that it was already registered to an active Twitch account. Raccoon then recalled a conversation she had with several other Owozu talents during a call where about 20 people discussed their plans to resign from the company. The group had agreed to leave due to fatigue and allegations of workplace abuse. During that call, they asked Fuel if she planned to resign with them. Fuel, however, allegedly said, "No, I prefer the job." Everyone in the call vividly remembers those words. This raised an important question. Why would Fuel tell Owozu employees that she wasn't resigning if she wasn't connected to the company? Imagine what this means. Fuel allegedly knew about the mass departure of Owozu's talents well in advance, but chose to feign ignorance when it came public on her streams and on social media. She acted surprised when the news broke and then seemingly worked to do damage control on behalf of the company. If this is not scummy behavior, I don't know what this is. Now, let me be clear, I have nothing against content creators securing sponsorships or partnerships. Getting paid for your work is valid, but there's a big difference between accepting a sponsorship and selling your voice to a company, especially if you're someone who has built a reputation for sharing honest opinions. If your voice has been sold to the highest bidder, why should anybody trust what you have to say? Not to mention the potential FTC violation this might involve. If you are being sponsored or hired by a company, you're legally obligated to disclose those affiliations. Transparency is essential, and misleading your audience about your ties to a company is not only unethical, but potentially illegal. Unsurprisingly, Fuel's reputation took a massive hit after this was exposed. While she continues to operate to this day, her credibility has never never fully recovered. Eventually, the Owozu talents and Fuel buried the hatchet and settled things privately. At the end of the day, Fuel isn't the main antagonist here. She was more of the shield that Owozu used to protect their own interests, for better or for worse. Fuel still deservingly lost a sizable portion of her fan base as a result. As it stands, there are now several ongoing lawsuits between Owozu and his former talents. First, Nene, formerly known as Karma, announced she is suing Owozu for unpaid wages and indemnities. This legal battle is taking place within Chile's jurisdiction, which is where Owozu is located. In a statement shared by Karma, she provided an update on her ongoing legal action against Miss Rain, Owozu's owner, whose real name was disclosed in legal proceedings. She shared, "Hello, as many of you know, since the beginning of all of this, we have avoided talking publicly about this because we were taking legal actions against Miss Rain. It's been a terrifyingly exhausting few months because of this issue. We are doing things the right way, and even though this isn't over, I can finally show part of my testimony. Straight to the point, it's simple. I work with Miss Rain as my boss, and he had not paid me to this day. I started legal actions after trying to come to an agreement." Looking into Karma's lawsuit, it mostly revolves about her being in a toxic work environment, and her claims include manipulation, verbal abuse, and coercion by agency management. First of all, Karma alleges that Drakeout and Roldier, two managers at Owozu, frequently belittled her and pressured her to drop out of her graphic design program to focus solely on VTubing. She shared an experience of a meeting she had with Miss Rain, his girlfriend, and another former member of the agency, during which she spoke about her career struggles. "There were times when I traveled to Santiago to meet with Miss Rain, and one of these times was with his girlfriend and another member of the agency. I told them how my career was going and how things were getting complicated for me. After that, Miss Rain didn't stop making comments about how I should drop out of my career and dedicate myself 100% to VTubing. She also alleges that management pressured her to change her character design to a more childish aesthetic, even though she expressed high discomfort with the idea." Karma then goes on to describe a work culture where fear and intimidation were allegedly commonplace. She claimed that she and other talents were subjected to verbal abuse and threats of termination frequently. She explains, "There were several calls where we were told we couldn't record them. I didn't record them out of fear. In those calls, they would yell at us and raise their voices. The ones who yelled at us the most was Roldier. He once said he was super happy that we all resigned because that way we would see reality. He would excuse his behavior by saying that, as a Spaniard, he just had a louder tone of voice. And while it's true that Spanish speakers can sometimes be expressive, this went far beyond that and felt abusive." Karma added that the intimidation left her feeling powerless and unable to express her discomfort or even stand up for herself. She also further alleged that the agency actively monitored her streams and limited her interactions with other creators. She claimed that Roldier used to go through all of our livestream to spy on what we were doing. He is now restricted from my channels. She also accused the agency of mismanaging her Patreon account, claiming that they pretended she was still managing the account and could receive donations even though she no longer had access to it. "They tried to make it seem like I still had access to that account so that they could receive donations on my behalf. This was misleading and took advantage of people's ignorance instead of clarifying that the account was being managed by someone else." According to these documents, Karma is now requesting several sums of money in unpaid wages from 2023 to 2024, termination fees and delayed payment from the company, with some payments being late since December. Meanwhile, the other former talents have also all filed separate claims and have come together to file a class action lawsuit. This joint legal action allows them to address their grievances as a group. Raccoon announced this decision on social media. "A claim has been made. Like Nene FT, the girls, and I have filed a class action lawsuit against Mr. Misrain, owner of the agency Owozu. Many attempts have been made to formally settle with the defendant, but he refused or failed to appear at the summons. We request that we be paid what is owed to us and our respective compensation." Attached are excerpts from the lawsuits with the respective testimonies. So the ex-Owozu talents are collectively suing the company for over $188,000 USD in unpaid wages, delays, and damages. Now, obviously everyone's real name is redacted, and the girls are labeled in those documents as plaintiff 1 to 7. One of the most disturbing accusations centers around the blacklist system, which was already exposed on Twitter, so we're not too shocked about that one. As plaintiff 6 explains, Misra began to delegate his responsibilities to Redacted, with Redacted as his right hand. This change in leadership revealed the true nature of Mr. Redacted, turning the agency into a sort of dictatorship, where his decisions were unquestionable. This system prohibited employees from associating with specific content creators deemed a threat to the agency. They were told of these creators and requested to spread rumors about them among their personal contacts, under threats of being accused of treason if they did not. The accusations of psychological abuse are equally alarming. Plaintiff 5 recounts a terrifying incident where a manager, Mr. Redacted, made repeated threats after she defended a colleague. He began to send me psychological threats, threatening me with messages like, "I'm angry. You'll see when we talk about this, just you and me. No one else will have to be in the meeting, we have to the point of causing nervousness and vomiting," she states. These threats, coupled with Mr. Redacted ability to delete conversations and ban her from group chats, left Plaintiff 5 feeling powerless and vulnerable. Beyond these specific incidents, the plaintiffs consistently describe a culture of disrespect and manipulation. Plaintiff 4, for instance, details her struggle with an excessive workload, stating, "In November 2022, the amount of my work increased, making 4 scripts a day and recording them in addition to keeping up with social networks. Despite the fact that I requested training to manage them, I was only given superficial explanations. This coupled with the low pay and constant pressure to perform made it difficult for her to maintain her well-being." Plaintiff 3 describes a work environment rife with interpersonal conflict, stating, "They spoke badly of practically all of my colleagues on different occasions, and at the same time, they let me know that they were envious of me. They wished me harm and that some of them were bad people. Situations that led to an extremely uncomfortable and tense work environment where I had practically no communications with anyone." Meanwhile, Drakeout from Owozu, whom we have reached out for a statement, claims that Owozu is also pursuing legal action against the former talents for defamation and damages. He has denied the allegations of abuse within the company and inviting us to review the lawsuit documents once more. Upon reviewing the documents, we found that they do not in fact exonerate Owozu, as Drakeout suggested. Instead, the papers indicated that Owozu had filed an appeal to a higher court to review the decision made by a lower court. An appeal is a legal process used to challenge a ruling that one party believes to be incorrect or unfair. However, whether this appeal will be accepted or lead to a different outcome remains to be seen. Drakeout also mentioned that the case should be resolved soon, and once the case concludes, we will provide a follow-up video to update you on the final decision. Following this, Misra, the owner of the agency, finally responded once again with a final statement, telling audiences that it's now in the hands of the lawyers and asking audiences not to take everything put in the complaints at face value. He emphasized that the accusations are unproven and urges people to wait for the court's decision instead of drawing conclusions, stating that Owozu will not release any documents or make public statements until a court ruling is reached. Of course, my issues with Misra is that perhaps he didn't behave as horribly as his employee, but at the end of the day, he employed his friends and let them wreak havoc and never even bothered to stop them. If this information is true, then part of the responsibility falls on Misra. He could have stopped them, and yet he didn't lift a finger. To finish this off, Owozu was often referred to as the Spanish V Shoujo. But after this entire fiasco, I think it's more fitting to call them the Spanish Wachter, but with extra steps. The agency is now completely defunct and no longer operational after every single talent walked out. But wait, plot twist, 2 months ago, Owozu decided to resurrect their VTuber Karma and is now SkinWalking as her, live streaming on Kick and uploading shorts to her YouTube channel. On top of that, her new voice actress even openly threw jabs at Nene, Karma's former voice actress, during her return livestream. But that's a whole nother story for part 2. All the while, Nene and all the other girls are still locked in legal battle with Owozu. And to add to that, Owozu still allegedly refuses to relinquish control of the girls' accounts or even delete them, leaving things in limbo. We can only hope for a speedy resolution from the courts. And there's a lot of negativity we cover here, but if you want to do something good in the world, I've partnered with Heartstream heroes and VTubers across the internet for a charity event fighting the world's leading killer, heart disease. The American Heart Association is working to combat that and funds life-saving research and education. 100% of all donations received today will go straight to them. And to make things interesting, if we hit $1,000 by February 14, I'll take you on the Heart Racing Challenge, where I play a horror game while chat bombards me with heart racing alerts. Because that's kind of ironic, isn't it? So if you want to help save lives and see me suffer a little, now's your chance. You can donate now via the YouTube panel on the right of this video. As always, my dear audience, you're free to form your own opinion. But instead of bloopers this time, I'll be redirecting you to the girls' new accounts where they are starting fresh. Please remember, do not send harassment to anyone involved in this situation. Until next time.